Now the next question is question number 115. Tricarpillary Syncarpus gynoecium is found in flowers of Liliaceae, Solanaceae, Fabaceae or Poaceae. So this question is from the chapter Morphology of the Flowering Plants. So in the last topic we have discussed about the tree family, that is the Liliaceae, Solanaceae and the Fabaceae. Which among this following family have the characteristic that is the Tricarpillary Syncarpus gynoecium? It is found in the family Liliaceae. So option number 1 is the correct answer. Now let's move on to the next question. Now the next question is question number 116. One of the major components of cell wall of most fungi is chitin, peptidoglycan, cellulose or hemicellulose. Well, we have discussed that in the chapter Plant Kingdom about the cell wall compositions of fungi. So, the answer is chitin, which is option number 1. So, option number 1, chitin is the correct answer of this question. Now, let's move on to the next question. Now, the next question is question number 117. Select the incorrect statement. First statement is follicle stimulating hormone stimulates the Sertoli cells which help in spermiogenesis. Statement number 2 is luteinizing hormone triggers ovulations in ovary. Then option number 3, which is the statement number 3, that state that luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone decreases gradually during the follicular phase, and statement number 4 is luteinizing hormone triggers the secretion of androgens from the Leydig cells. Well, we have discussed about these two hormones, that is the luteinizing hormones and the follicle stimulating hormones from the chapter Human Reproductions while discussing about the male reproductive system. So, which among them is the correct answer? The option number 1, 2 and 4 is the correct statement, while option number 3, that is luteinizing hormones and follicle stimulating hormones decreases gradually during the follicular phase of the menstrual cycle, and it is the incorrect statement because these two hormones get increases, but here it is written decreases. That means option number 3 is the incorrect statement, and this is the correct answer of this question. Alright, now let's move on to the next question. Now the next question is question number 118. In meiosis, the crossing over is initiated at pectine, lactotine, zygotine or diplotine. So, this is also very easy question, and this is from the chapter cell cycle and cell divisions. So, while discussing about the cell division of meiosis, we have got all these stages. These stages are of prophase 1, right? So, which among them is the correct answer? From which among these options the crossing over take place? That is the option number 1, pectine. So, pectine is the stage in which the chromosomes cross over. So, this is the correct answer. Alright, now let's move on to the next question. Now, the next question is question number 119. A tall true breeding garden pea plant is crossed with a dwarf true breeding garden pea plant. When the F1 plants were selved, the resulting genotypes were in the ratio. First option is 1:2:1 tall homozygous is to tall heterozygous is to dwarf, and the next option is 1:2:1, which means tall heterozygous, tall homozygous and ratio is dwarf, and the third option is 3:1, which means tall is to dwarf, and the fourth option is 3:1, which means dwarf is to tall. So, we have discussed in the chapter Principles of Inheritance and Variations. There we have got about these true breeding lines. So, which among them is the correct answer? That is the option number 1, which means that 1 is for tall homozygous and 2 is for tall heterozygous and one is for dwarf. So, a tall true breeding garden pea plant is crossed with a dwarf true breeding garden pea plant. So, when the F1 plants were self, the resulting genotypes were in this ratio. So, option number 1 is the correct answer of this question. Now, let us move on to the next question. Now, the next question is question number 120. Which of the following is the most important cause of animals and plants being driven to extinction? First option is overexploitation, second option is alien species invasion, third option is habitat loss and fragmentation, and the fourth option is co-extinctions. Well, this is from the unit ecology and this is a direct question from your NCERT textbooks. So, you can refer to the chapter. So, which among them is the correct answer? That is the option number 3, habitat loss and fragmentation. So, this is the most important cause of animals and plants being driven to extinction. So, in the chapter biodiversity and conservations, we have got about this, right? Now, let us move on to the next question. Now, the next question is question number 121. Which one of the following is a characteristic feature of cropland ecosystem? First option is absence of soil organism, second option is least genetic diversity, then third option is the absence of weeds, and the fourth option is ecological successions. So, this is from the chapter ecosystem and you know already about this. So, which among them is a characteristic feature of cropland ecosystem? That is the least genetic diversity. So, option number 2 is the correct answer. Now, the next question is question number 122. As you can see here, changes in gonadotropin regulating hormone pulse frequency in female is controlled by circulating levels of, there are 4 options given. First option is estrogen and progesterone, second option is estrogen and inhibin, third option is progesterone only, and fourth option is progesterone and inhibin. So, we have discussed this hormone in the chapter human reproductions. So, in the last topic we have talked about this. So, what is the correct answer among this? That is the option number 1, estrogen and progesterone. These are the 2 hormones of the female reproductive system and they helps in the controlling of the changes in the GnRH pulse frequency. So, GnRH pulse frequency. So, option number 1 is the correct answer of this question. Now, let us move on to the next question. Now, the next question is question number 123. Which of the following is not a feature of the plasmids? There are 4 options given. First option is independent replication, second option is circular structure, third option is transferable, and fourth option is single stranded. So, we have discussed in the chapter biological classifications in the prokaryotic organism, that is the plasmid. It is the extra chromosomal material which is present in the prokaryotic organisms. So, what are the characteristics of this plasmid? The characteristic of the plasmids are they can independently replicate, then they are circular in structure and they are transferable, and in the fourth option it is given that they are single stranded, but they are actually what? They are double stranded. So, they somewhat look like this. So, the double stranded chromosome is circularly arranged, right? And this is the plasmid and this is the prokaryotic cell, right? So, option number 4 is the incorrectly written. So, this is the correct answer of this question, that is the single stranded. Alright. Now, let us see the next question. Now, the next question is question number 124. Which of the following feature is not present in Periplaneta americana? There are 4 options given. Caesocoelom as body cavity. Second option is indeterminate and radial cleavage during embryonic development, and third option is exoskeleton composed of an acetyl glucose amine, and the fourth option is they are metamerically segmented body. So, in the chapter structural organizations in animals, we have discussed about the morphological and anatomical features of cockroach, and here it is written that the Periplaneta americana, which is the scientific name of cockroach, right. So, the scientific name of cockroach is Periplaneta americana, and these are the features. But among these four features, one feature is not correctly represented. So, which among them is the correct answer for this question? That is the option number 2. So, option number 2 is the correct answer of this question. Now, let us move on to the next question. Now, the next question is question number 125. In higher vertebrates, the immune system can distinguish self cells and non-self. If this property is lost due to genetic abnormality and it attacks the self cells, then it leads to, there are four options given, allergic response or graft rejection or autoimmune disease or the active immunity. So, in the chapter Human Health and Disease, we have clearly described about this. You can refer to that chapter. So, the correct answer is option number 3, autoimmune disease. So, that is the correct answer of this statement. So, in higher vertebrates, the immune systems that can distinguish the self and non-self, and if this property is lost due to some genetic abnormality, then it leads to autoimmune disease. So, third option is the correct answer of this question. Now, let us see the next question. Now, the next question is question number 126. As you can see here, there is two column given, column 1 and column 2. In the column 1, all the names are given like dominance, codominance, pleiotropy, polygenic inheritance, and in the column 2, all their definitions are given. So, we have discussed all this term, that is the dominance, codominance and the pleiotropy, and in fact the polygenic inheritance in the chapter Principles of Inheritance and Variations. So, now you have to match the column 1 with column 2 to know the correct answer from the given option. So, after matching the column 1 with column 2, we have got this definitions of all this term. So, dominance, which means in a heterozygous organism only one allele express itself, that is called as the dominant, and the next is the codominance, that in a heterozygous organism when both the alleles express themselves fully, that you can take the example of human blood group, that is the codominance, and the pleiotropy which means a single gene influences many characters, and the fourth is polygenic inheritance, which means many genes govern a single characters. So, this is the correct definitions. So, among these four options, option number 2 is correctly written. So, this is the correct answer of these questions. Now, let us move on to the next question. Now, in the next question, that is question number 127, it states that joint forest management concept was introduced in India during 1960 or 1970 or 1980 or 1990. So, this question is from the chapter Ecosystem. There you have very clearly in the NCERT book it is given the joint forest management. So, what is the correct answer among this question? That is the option number 3. So, in the year 1980s, this concept was introduced in India. Okay. Now, let us move on to the next question. Now, the next question, that is question number 128. Pick out the correct statement. So, the first statement is hemophilia is a sex-linked recessive disease. Second statement is Down syndrome is due to aneuploidy. Third statement is phenylketonuria is an autosomal recessive gene disorder, and the fourth option is sickle cell anemia is an autosomal recessive gene disorders. So, all these statements are given from the chapter Principles of Inheritance and Variations. So, in the last topic of the chapter we have talked about this. So, which among them is the correct statement? Option number 1 and 2 and in fact the 3 which state that hemophilia is a sex-linked recessive disease, that is the correct statement. Now, next is Down syndrome. Down syndrome is due to aneuploidy, that is also a correct statement. And the third statement is phenylketonuria is an autosomal recessive gene disorder, whereas statement number 4 is sickle cell anemia is an autosomal recessive gene disorder. So, this option is incorrectly written, whereas option 1, 2 and 3 is the correct answer. So, among these 4 options, option number 4 is correctly written. So, 1, 2 and 3 statement is the correct statement of this question. Alright. Now, let us move on to the next question. Now, the next question is question number 129. You can see here which one of the following statement is wrong. First statement is cyanobacteria are also called blue-green algae. Statement number 2 is golden algae are also called as desmids. Statement number 3 is eubacteria are also called false bacteria. And statement number 4 is Phycomycetes are also called algal fungi. So, this has directly come from the chapter biological classifications. So, which among them is the correct answer? All the option, that is 1, 2 and 4 is the correct statement, but option number 3 that says that eubacteria are also called as false bacteria, that is not correct. This is absolutely not correct. What should be the correct answer? They are called as the true bacteria, right? So, that is the correct answer, but here in this statement it is written it is the false bacteria. So, this is the most easy question. Now, let us see the next question. Now, the next question is question number 130. You can see here this question. The proximal end of the filament of stamen is attached to the anther, connective, placenta, thalamus or petal. So, from the class 12 in the chapter number 2, that is the sexual reproductions in the flowering plants, there it is very clearly given the diagram of the stamen. So, the stamen structure, if you remember, this is the anther, this is the filament and this is the right. So, thalamus is the correct answer. So, the proximal end of the filament of stamen which is attached to the flower is called as the thalamus or petal. So, this is the correct answer and this is the most easy and direct question from NCERT textbook, right. Now, let us see the next question. Now, the next question is question number 131. Which of the following approaches does not give the defined action of contraceptive? First is barrier methods prevent fertilization. Second is intrauterine devices increase the phagocytosis of the sperms, suppress the sperm motility and fertilizing capacity of sperms. Third is hormonal contraceptive, it prevents or retards the entry of the sperms which further prevents the ovulation and fertilization. And the next is vasectomy, vasectomy prevents spermatogenesis. So, this is directly from the chapter reproductive health. We have discussed about the contraceptive method. So, which among them is the correct answer of this question? That is the option number 4. So, in the question it has asked that which among them does not give the defined action of the contraceptive, that is the vasectomy. Alright. Now, let us move on to the next question. Now, in the next question, that is the question number 132, the Taq polymerase enzyme is obtained from Thermus aquaticus. Second option is Thiobacillus ferroxidans. Third option is Bacillus subtilis. Fourth option is Pseudomonas putida. So, this is also a direct question from the chapter Biotechnology Principles and its Process. So, the Taq polymerase which is used in PCR technique, that is the polymerase chain reaction, right? So, during this process, the DNA polymerase which is used is called as the Taq polymerase, and this polymerase is obtained from a bacteria which is called as the Thermus aquaticus. So, option number 1 is the correct answer, and you have already know about these chapters, that is the biotechnology principle and process, and it also given the name of this bacteria, that is the Thermus aquaticus, from which the enzyme Taq polymerase is obtained. So, this is the correct answer. Now, let us move on to the next question, and the next question is question number 133. Identify the correct statement on inhibin. There are 4 statements given and you have to choose the correct statement among them. So, the first statement is it inhibits the secretion of luteinizing hormone and follicular stimulating hormone and prolactin. Statement number 2 is produced by the granulosa cells in ovary and it inhibits the secretion of follicle stimulating hormones. And statement number 3, it says that inhibin is produced by the granulose cells in ovary and it inhibits the secretion of luteinizing hormones. And statement number 4 is it is produced by the nurse cells in testes and inhibits the secretion of luteinizing hormones. So, this is from the chapter Human Reproductions. So, which among them is the correct statement? That is the option number 2. So, the inhibin is produced by the granulose cells in the ovary and it inhibits the secretion of follicle stimulating hormones. So, correct statement is option number 2. Now, let us move on to the next question. Now, the next question is question number 134. Which part of the tobacco plant is infected by Melodigni ignoxia? There are 4 options given like flower, leaf, stem or root. Well, this is from the chapter Applications of Biotechnology. So, while discussing the applications, we have got the nematode, that is the Melodigni ignoxia, and for this the RNA interference were needed. So, this nematode affect the roots of the tobacco plants, which means the option number 4 is the correct answer. So, Melodigni is what? It is a nematode and it is treated by RNA interference. So, for understanding this concept, you can refer to the chapters. So, option number 4 is the correct answer of this question. Now, let us see the next question. In this question number 135, you can see the question. Antivenom injection contained preformed antibodies, while polio drops that are administered into the body contain option number 1 activated pathogens, option number 2 harvested antibodies, option number 3 gamma globulin and option number 4 attenuated pathogen. So, student, antivenom injection is an antiserum which is obtained from the snake poison and then it is transferred to the person with a snake bite. Whereas the polio vaccine, which are used to prevent polio virus, it is of 2 types. One is given orally, another one is injection. So, when the injection is given, it is the inactivated pathogens, right? And the one which is orally given, that is the attenuated pathogens, that means the weakened pathogens. So, among these following 4 options, option number 4 attenuated pathogen, which means weakened pathogen, and the weakened pathogen is the polio virus, right? So, weakened polio virus is given. So, option number 4 attenuated pathogen is the correct answer. Now, let us see the next question, that is question number 136. Now, the next question is question number 136. Which one of the following cell organelle is enclosed by a single membrane? These are 4 options given: mitochondria, chloroplast, lysosomes or nucleic acid. So, this is from the chapter Cell, the Unit of Life. So, there we have got all these different types of cell organelles and their function. So, in the question it has asked that which one of the following cell organelle is enclosed by a single membrane? That is the option number 3, lysosomes. So, this is the correct answer of this question. Now, let us move on to the next question. Now, in the next question, that is question number 137, lack of relaxation between successive stimuli in sustained muscle contraction is known as spasm, fatigue, titinus or tonus. Well, these are the disorders which we have discussed in the chapter locomotions and movement. So, what is the correct answer of this question? So, due to the lack of relaxations between the successive stimuli in a sustained muscle contraction, it is known as titinus. That is the option number 3. Okay, this is the correct answer. Now, let us see the next question. Now, the next question is question number 138. Which of the following is not a stem modification? These are 4 options given: picture of Nepenthes or thorns of citrus or tendrils of cucumber or flattened structure of opuntia. So, this chapter morphology of the flowering plants, there we have described about the modifications of stem. So, which among this example is the correct answer? That is the option number 1, picture of Nepenthes. This is not under the stem modification, whereas option number 2, 3 and 4, these are all actually the modification of the stem. So, correct answer is option number 1. Okay. Now, let us see the next question.
We know kinetic energy is equals to h mu minus h mu naught, where mu naught is the threshold frequency, mu is the frequency given. So, we need to change kinetic energy. We can write kinetic energy as EV naught also, which is equals to h mu minus h mu naught.